collected quite a mix of mosaic materials, and you've promised yourself to finally get things in order. In today's video, I'll show you how I organize my mosaic materials and keep things tidy. You can implement my system too. Say it with me. No more mosaic mess. Let's get to it. Welcome back, and if you're new here, my name is Julie. And on this channel, we talk about tips, tricks, tools, adhesives, materials, and specific mosaic projects, all to shorten your learning curve when it comes to creating mosaic art. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please consider subscribing. It's a new year, or whenever you're watching this, and you've promised yourself you're finally going to get your mosaic materials organized and in order. Gosh, do I hear you. I am right there with you. Whether you're new to mosaics or have been doing it for over 20 years like I have, keeping your materials under control and organized is something you will wrestle with forever if you don't come up with a system on how to get it under control. Materials have a way of getting out of control quickly. Now maybe you're okay and can work within that, but as far as my brain, I need organization. So I've come up with a system that works for me, and it's something that you can implement with your materials as well. Now, it hasn't always been this way for me. I started off with all of my tools and materials and substrates in a cardboard box. And I had the flaps taped up just so I had a bigger box to put everything in. I made mosaic art on my dining room table in my very first apartment. So every time I needed to eat or entertain, I had to clear off the table, eat, entertain, whatever, and then get my stuff back out. So I graduated from the cardboard box and I got a container, just like this. But I quickly outgrew that and got another container. Still outgrew it. And then I got another container. This was a great system for me, and yet I still ended up cramming my stuff into these containers. And it wasn't like I had 20 containers or whatever, but still it was a little frustrating trying to locate an item that I knew I had somewhere. I kept my supplies like that for years until I finally got organized. And part of that is because the volume of my tesserae grew. As I started experimenting and doing different types of mosaic, I gathered a lot of materials. And so I needed to come up with a system not only to keep them organized, but also so that I could be organized. So in today's video, I'm going to focus on material or tesserae storage. I'll show you how I organize materials like smalti, vitreous glass, stained glass, plates, bowls, and mugs, ceramic and porcelain tile, glass gems, and lots more. I'd love to see how other artists set up their spaces, no matter what type of art they're doing. It's sort of a, pulling back of the curtain. You get to see how they manage their materials and how their brain works when it comes to setting up areas within their creative spaces. And it oddly makes me feel more connected to these artists because, in a way, we're all the same. We'll do a full tour of my studio here on the channel in the future, but for today, I really want to focus on materials. And before we get any further, I just want to acknowledge I understand not everybody has a lot of space for their mosaic making and the materials. Trust me, this is not how it's always been for me either. And so I just want to say that I've created this system before I had all of this space to work with. And it's just a system that anybody can adapt to what they have. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. In thinking about how I store my mosaic materials, I haven't strayed far from a lesson I learned way back in preschool, which is keep like items together. It's a pretty simple theme or general rule in the studio, but how do I do it? I love color. All colors. And so I definitely wanted the mosaic materials to be visible when not in use. So I decided on these boxes. They're basically like shoe boxes, and I'm working with just 2 different sizes. I would say one of them would be maybe for women's heels or sandals, and then the other size maybe some smaller boots or sneakers. And these boxes make up the majority of what's going on my shelves behind me, and actually in other areas of the studio that you haven't seen yet. I wouldn't want the boxes to be any bigger simply because mosaic materials are heavy in large quantities. I need it to be manageable so I can easily move the container from the shelf to my work table and then back to the shelf. For instance, my boxes of vitreous glass are at least 20 pounds each. And that's almost too heavy, especially because I stack them and I don't want the lids to cave in or crack under the pressure. So I start each box by, like I said earlier, grouping like items together. And each box gets a label to make it even easier to locate what I'm looking for, even though I can pretty much see through the box as to what's inside. If a box has a sticky note and not a label, that means I'm still working on organizing that box, or that box may be temporary for what's inside. Once I'm done organizing or have decided the box is the correct size for the materials inside, I'll create a label on my label maker. I love this little device. I'm able to choose the font and font size. I can choose the color of tape or background color. And the labels are reusable, so I can pull them off one container and stick them onto another very easily. Yet they stay stuck down beautifully even after they've been pulled off of one container and put on another, and pulled off and put on another. Yeah, I'm a little indecisive sometimes. Back to how I organize. So for some materials like smalti, I can keep all of my supply in a box. All of my colors, both Mexican and Italian varieties, are together. If I need smalti, this is the only place it'll be. But then we get into things like vitreous glass, ceramic tile, plates, bowls, mugs, porcelain, and those get grouped in a different way. For my vitreous glass, I have a box just for blue tiles, or green, or brown. You get the idea. And I know that in those boxes, I'll find 3/8 inch and 3/4 inch vitreous tile in that specific color. If it's not in there, I don't have it. My stained glass supply is much of the same. I have a box for each color, or sometimes a group of colors. I use these boxes for my smaller cut-off pieces. The only other place I keep stained glass are on these glass caddies. I really like them because not only do they keep the glass upright and organized, but also because it keeps the glass on display. I love to look over there from time to time throughout the day and see all those gorgeous colors. My plates, bowls, and mugs for Pique Assiette Mosaic are organized much like the vitreous and stained glass. I do have a lot of it, but it's bulkier than the vitreous and stained glass, so I keep them in larger containers. But they're grouped and organized the same way. So if I'm looking for blue plates, bowls, and mugs, if it's not in the container labeled blue, I don't have it. Moving on to my porcelain tiles, these are grouped a little differently. Because I have a few different sizes, I decided to group them by size instead of color. It just made a lot more sense to me to do it this way, and it's worked out well. For my 4x4 ceramic tiles, I have them in a few containers. All of the manufactured colors are grouped together. The hand-painted tiles that I made are grouped in their own containers. And because the tiles are fairly large, so to speak, it doesn't take long to go through the boxes to see if I have a particular color. For my rocks, smaller ceramic tile, and Christmas plates, bowls, and mugs, I have enough of each of those that they can have their own boxes. For items such as ceramic and porcelain shapes, I've grouped all of them together in their own box. The same is true for glass shapes. The last bit of this initial phase of organizing is that I try to keep the containers of like items next to or on top of each other here on my shelves. I don't have green vitreous glass over on one side and then blue somewhere else. All of the vitreous are together. All of the stained glass are together, and so on. Grouping like items together. I'll include a list down below in the description of all of the containers and accessories and materials that I used in today's video in case you'd like to get your materials organized and tidy. So now let's jump into the boxes and see how I keep things even more organized. My organizing system inside each box is pretty basic. I rely heavily on the freezer zipper bags in the quart and gallon size. These bags are stronger and can hold up to the sharp points of the tesserae. Plus, I'm able to reuse them over and over and over again. In the case of some of my stained glass boxes, for instance, sometimes I have a larger piece of glass in a gallon size bag with smaller cut-off pieces of the same color in a smaller bag. But keeping everything together, it helps me locate a color and the size pieces that I need very quickly. This is why I always say you want to keep your cutoffs. You never know when you'll need them, and by storing them in such a way that allows you to quickly locate the item, you will be thanking yourself later on. The vitreous glass and plates, bowls, and mugs are organized the same way. All of a particular color or plate, bowl, or mug are kept in their own bag. The assumption is that all I have of that color or item is right there in that bag. Years ago, I kept all of my materials in glass jars, and it simply wasn't feasible anymore. I ran out of real estate. And so this system of having the containers with the bags inside, I've been able to pack as much as I possibly can into each container. Now let's talk about how I store really small mosaic materials. From time to time I use really small pieces in my mosaics like rhinestones and eyelets and brads and little glass discs. So years ago I found these interlocking little containers, and the bottom of one container locks into the lid of the other. So, and they come in a few different sizes, but they make things so manageable as far as keeping these small little pieces in check. And if I ever feel like I'm failing at being organized or keeping things neat and tidy, I'll just look over to that corner of my work table and I'll see them all organized and looking pretty, and it's like a pick-me-up. Now, of course, you can also store your small items like the rhinestones, brads, whatever, in zipper bags, just like you did with the other materials. I just like having them out. They're fun to look at. Another small item I keep organized are glass gems or flat-backed glass beads or baubles. They go by so many names. Here I've used spaghetti sauce jars. I painted the lids black for consistency and have grouped each color in their own jar. From there, I group jars of light colors together. I've used only one brand of sauce jars so that no matter what size of jar I have, you know, whether it's small, medium, or large, it's the same shape, if you know what I mean. It's the same body. And in this case, the jars have a squarish shape. Again, you can store and organize these items in zipper bags, just like the mosaic materials. You don't have to use jars like what I did. So let's talk a minute about how you can come up with and implement a system either in your creative space or just with your materials stash. And it all comes down to commitment and discipline. And it kind of sounds like a diet, but I assure you it's not nearly as painful. I'll be honest, I don't always put materials back when I'm done with them, at least not immediately. And it's in those times where things start to snowball. And I think back to, you should have put that away. But when I do make a conscious effort and I put the materials back where I found them, it makes my brain happy, and I can tell that when I show up to work on my work table, it comes out in what I do. If you aren't sure where to even start, I would write everything down that you have, and then you can start grouping like items together on paper. This is going to help you out for a few reasons. You're going to see how many zipper bags you need, and what sizes do you need. Also, what containers do you need? How many? Also, maybe you're missing some materials. Maybe you didn't realize that you had run out of something. Well, now you'll know. And it's really going to help you with overwhelm once you're actually doing the organizing work. So to recap, there are 5 steps that you can take to get your materials organized. Step 1 is to group like items together, vitreous together, stained glass together, plates, bowls, and mugs together, and so on. Step 2 is to group the like items by tesserae type, then size and or color. For example, vitreous glass, blues, 3/8 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch. Step 3 is to bag up items by size or color within each container. All 3/4 inch peacock blue vitreous glass in the same bag. No other colors in that bag. Step 4 is to label each box for ease of use. Vitreous, blues. Step 5 is grouping like boxes together, whether that's on a shelf or stacked in the corner of your dining room. I'll include a list down below in the description of all of the containers and materials that I used in today's video in case you'd like to get your mosaic materials organized and tidy. Question of the day, let me know in the comments if you're in the process of getting your materials organized, and what do you use for storage? I'd love to hear. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up as it really does help my channel, and subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification so you never miss a single upload, and let me know in the comments if there's something you'd like me to cover in a future video. I'll see you soon. Bye. No, I keep looking over here. And I'm talking a lot with my hands and I don't know why. Cut. Let's do that again. Your material. If you're watching this in the new year, Happy New Year! But if you're watching this on, let's say, like National Candy Bar Day, yum! Happy National Candy Bar Day! Or your birthday, happy birthday! Whatever. Just glad you're here. And why am I talking with my hands again? I don't know. Pleasant. Let's do that all over again. All over again. If you're looking for more mosaic inspiration, you can check out one of these 2 videos. Until then, see ya. Bye.